My brother betrayed me in the worst way. He lied, manipulated, and sabotaged everything around me. I confronted him, but he smirked arrogantly. Family was caught in his manipulative schemes. I had to take back my life. Here's my story of betrayal and survival. I never thought I'd be writing here about my own sibling, but here we are. I, 27F, have a younger brother, Alex, and 24M. And growing up, we were pretty close, like annoyingly close in a good way. We shared secrets, supported each other, even had this unspoken no one messes with family rule, or at least that's what I thought. Lately, though, I started noticing little things that didn't add up. Alex became unusually secretive with his phone, started canceling plans at the last minute, and sometimes I'd catch him smirking at things he shouldn't have known about. I tried to brush it off, telling myself maybe he's just stressed with work or school or whatever. But deep down, something felt off. That gut feeling you get when you know a storm's coming, I couldn't shake it. It all felt minor at first, just small suspicions. But looking back now, those tiny cracks were the warning signs of something way bigger, something that would completely change how I see him, and maybe even my family. So this is where everything started to spiral. A few weeks ago, I was working late in the living room while Alex was in his room studying. I didn't think anything of it until I heard him talking. Quietly, but clear enough. At first, I thought he was on the phone, but then I realized he was on a video call. And not just with a friend, he was talking to someone from my work. I froze, listening without meaning to, and what I heard made my stomach drop. He was explaining how I handle certain tasks, giving advice on how to undercut me in upcoming projects, even joking about making me look bad in front of our boss. I couldn't believe it. My own brother, my family, all those years of trust just gone in a few sentences. After that, I started noticing other red flags. Emails he shouldn't have seen, my personal things borrowed without asking, and the subtle way he manipulated family members against me. Everything suddenly clicked. The secretive phone, the late nights, the smirks. It wasn't stress. It was him scheming. I felt this mix of shock, disbelief, and a creeping rage I hadn't experienced before. I didn't know whether to confront him right away or gather more proof. But one thing was clear. Something had to happen, and fast. I decided I couldn't just stew in my anger anymore. I waited until the weekend when we were both home, and I confronted him in the kitchen. I laid it out straight. Alex, I know what you've been doing. You've been talking to people at my work, giving them information about me, and manipulating situations to make me look bad. Why? At first he laughed, like I was overreacting. He said, "Come on, it's not that serious. Everyone does stuff like this. You're taking it too personally." I told him it was serious, my trust, my career, everything. It felt like he'd stabbed me in the back. He paused, then tried the guilt route. "I only did it because I wanted to help you. I thought, if people saw me as smarter, it'd reflect well on you too." I wanted to scream. Help me? By sabotaging me? It was infuriating to see him twist his betrayal into something that sounded almost noble. He didn't apologize. He didn't show remorse. Just excuses, smirks, and the sickening charm that I used to think was harmless. The confrontation didn't feel like closure. It felt like peeling back a layer of him I never wanted to see. After that confrontation, I couldn't just go back to normal. I felt like my world had been flipped upside down. I kept replaying every interaction we'd had over the past year, noticing all the little lies, the manipulations, the moments where he'd subtly undermined me. Every memory I thought was genuine suddenly felt tainted. Anger came in waves. I'd catch myself glaring at him for no reason, my chest tightening whenever he entered the room. Then came the sadness. The realization that the person I trusted most in my family could betray me so coldly. Nights were the worst. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how long he'd been planning this, how much damage he'd already done, and whether I'd ever really known him at all. There was also a strange, creeping paranoia. I started double-checking emails, texts, even casual conversations to see if he twisted them or shared them. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart skipped a beat. Friends noticed I'd become quieter, more cautious, less trusting, not just of him, but of people in general. It hurt. Like someone had reached into my chest, pulled out the trust I had for my own brother and stomped on it. And the worst part? He didn't even seem to realize or care how deeply he'd hurt me. After days of stewing in anger and sadness, I realized I had to make a choice. I could either let him continue to manipulate me and others, or I could take control of the situation and my life. I decided on boundaries first. No more sharing personal plans, work issues, or feelings with him. I blocked him from accessing anything that could give him leverage and made sure friends and colleagues knew not to discuss my business with him. It wasn't easy. He tried to charm his way in, to guilt trip me, to make me feel like the bad sibling, but I stayed firm. I also considered cutting ties completely, but I wasn't ready for that. I needed to protect myself while still keeping a semblance of family, at least for now. Every interaction became cautious, measured, and I kept reminding myself, trust isn't given freely anymore. He had burned it. It's still hard. I feel anger bubbling up at the smallest things. I sometimes wonder if he'll ever regret what he did, or if he even can. But I feel stronger for drawing the line. I realized that self-respect matters more than familial loyalty when that loyalty is weaponized against you. Looking back, this whole ordeal has taught me some harsh but valuable lessons. First, trust is fragile, even with family. Just because someone shares your DNA doesn't mean they share your values or your loyalty. Second, paying attention to gut feelings and small red flags can save you from much bigger betrayals later on. Those little signs I ignored were warnings. I've also learned the importance of boundaries. Protecting your own well-being isn't selfish, it's necessary. And while forgiveness is a personal choice, I've realized it doesn't mean tolerating abuse or manipulation. Sometimes love means stepping back to safeguard yourself. To anyone out there who suspects a sibling or anyone close to them might be betraying their trust, document what you can, protect yourself, and don't ignore that gut instinct. Confrontation might not always go the way you hope, but clarity and boundaries are far better than living in denial. Finally, remember that betrayal doesn't define you, it defines the person who committed it. And while the anger and sadness can feel overwhelming, you can emerge stronger, wiser, and more in control of your life than you ever were before. After the confrontation, I kept replaying past events in my head, and suddenly, everything started to make sense. Those times Alex borrowed my clothes without asking, he'd later show up to parties wearing the same outfits I had worn at work events, making himself look more put together than me. The accidental emails he sent to family members about my mistakes, he'd carefully framed them to make me look incompetent. I even remembered a dinner last year where I casually mentioned a personal struggle, and the very next day, he somehow used it to manipulate Mom into siding with him during a minor argument. At the time, I thought he was just being clever or helpful. Now, I realize it was calculated. The worst part was doubting myself. I kept asking, am I overreacting? Maybe I misread him? But the evidence stacked up. Every memory, every tiny betrayal fit into this sick puzzle. It wasn't paranoia, it was reality. And it hurt more than I expected, realizing that someone you trust could weaponize intimacy like this. Just when I thought I'd seen the worst, Alex stepped it up. A week after our confrontation, I got a call from my boss. Someone had filed a complaint about me at work. I froze. My heart sank. I knew immediately who it was. Alex had gone behind my back again. I dug deeper and discovered he had been forwarding my private emails, twisting their content to make me look unreliable. He even managed to convince a few colleagues to share sensitive information with him, all under the guise of helping me. Every plan I'd been working on, every effort I made to impress at work, was being undermined. I confronted him again, furious this time. His response? A shrug and a grin. You're too sensitive. I was just showing people how smart I am. Smart? Manipulative, selfish, dishonest? All those years of closeness? A lie? I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just small betrayals. Alex was actively sabotaging my life like it was some twisted game, and the fact that he could do it with a smile made it even worse. I hit my breaking point a few days later. I walked into the living room and saw Alex casually scrolling through my laptop, my personal laptop, while I was making coffee. I felt my blood boil. Everything in me screamed, "Not again!" I couldn't take it silently this time. I grabbed the laptop and slammed it on the counter. "Enough, Alex, I've had it. You've crossed every line possible. You're manipulating everyone, sabotaging my work, and lying constantly." He just leaned back, smirking like he was enjoying the chaos he'd caused. "You're dramatic. I'm just ambitious. You should be thanking me for motivating you." Motivating me? I felt like my chest was being crushed with every word. Rage, betrayal, heartbreak. It all collided at once. I stormed out, needing to breathe, needing space. I cried, yes. I screamed, yes. But underneath it all, a grim clarity emerged. I couldn't let him continue hurting me. Not my life, not my trust, not my peace. After the breaking point, I knew I had to act strategically. I started by limiting his access to my personal life. Passwords were changed, devices secured, and I made it clear to family and friends no one was to share personal information with him anymore. I also stopped volunteering details about work, plans, or even daily routines. Every conversation was cautious, measured, and emotionally neutral. It felt like walking on eggshells at first, but I realized it was necessary. Trust had been shattered, and I couldn't give it freely again. I even created a small journal to track his manipulations and incidents, dates, times, specific actions, because seeing the pattern on paper helped me feel less crazy. It wasn't revenge, it was preparation. Preparation to protect myself, to regain control over the chaos he had created. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of power returning. I wasn't helpless anymore. I wasn't a victim. And while I didn't fully know what the future held, I knew one thing. I would no longer let him dictate my life. Things got messy when the family started noticing the tension. Mom tried to mediate, asking both of us to talk it out, but she had no idea the full extent of Alex's manipulation. Every time I tried to explain, he would charm her, twist the story, and make me seem unreasonable or oversensitive. Dad stayed mostly quiet, which didn't help. Some cousins took sides based on the bits Alex fed them, praising him for being so clever while questioning my reactions. It was infuriating, seeing people I trusted start to doubt me because of his lies. At the same time, a few close relatives and friends became my allies. They'd seen his manipulative patterns before and validated my feelings. Having people on my side was a relief, but it also underscored how deeply Alex's selfishness had permeated our family dynamic. I realized that protecting myself wasn't just about avoiding him. It meant navigating a minefield of half-truths and alliances. Every interaction required vigilance, patience, and restraint. The betrayal wasn't just personal. It had ripples I hadn't anticipated. Slowly, I started to reclaim my sense of self. I set firm boundaries, and for the first time, Alex's attempts to manipulate me didn't fully succeed. I refused to engage in arguments, ignored his snide remarks, and limited interactions to only necessary conversations. It was exhausting, but empowering. At work, I documented everything meticulously. Colleagues who had been confused by his antics now had clear evidence that I was competent and reliable. My confidence returned, one small victory at a time. Even seeing him frustrated by my refusal to react felt like a little personal triumph, proof that I wasn't helpless anymore. I also leaned on my allies, sharing my experiences openly, and it made a huge difference. Talking to people who understood helped me process my emotions without feeling like I was overreacting or losing my mind. Each day, I felt stronger, clearer, more in control. The betrayal still hurt, but it no longer ruled me. I was learning that survival wasn't about retaliation, it was about reclaiming peace, one step at a time. Just when I thought I had stabilized, Alex pulled another stunt that caught me off guard. I came home one evening to find him casually going through a box of my personal documents, old letters, journals, and even legal papers from a previous job dispute. When I confronted him, he smirked and said, "I was just curious. You write a lot of dramatic stuff." That sick, nonchalant tone made my blood run cold. I realized he hadn't just been sabotaging my present, he'd been gathering ammunition for the future. It was shocking, humiliating, and frustrating all at once. I felt a mix of fear and anger, realizing that no matter how careful I was, Alex was always looking for leverage, always scheming. But this time, I didn't let panic take over. I calmly secured my belongings, changed storage plans, and reinforced boundaries I hadn't fully enforced before. This was the moment I truly understood. Dealing with him wouldn't be a one-time confrontation. It was a constant, ongoing battle of vigilance and self-protection, and I was ready to fight it on my terms. After months of tension, manipulation, and emotional roller coasters, I finally reached a point of acceptance. I realized that Alex's actions reflected his character, not mine. I couldn't change him, and I couldn't undo the betrayal, but I could take control of my response and my life. I focused on rebuilding trust in myself and in relationships outside of him. I let myself grieve the sibling bond I thought I had, acknowledging the anger, sadness, and disappointment without letting it consume me. Therapy and honest conversations with friends became my anchors, helping me process the emotional wreckage he left behind. I also learned to forgive, not Alex, not yet, maybe never, but to forgive myself. For moments, I doubted my instincts or let his manipulation affect my confidence. Healing meant reclaiming my power and understanding that his betrayal, as painful as it was, didn't define my worth or my future. I still set boundaries, still watch my personal space carefully, but now there's a sense of calm. I've accepted reality, and with that acceptance comes a strange kind of peace. Looking back, I've realized a few crucial things. First, betrayal can come from the most unexpected places, even siblings you thought you knew inside out. Second, trust is earned, not automatic. Just because someone is family doesn't mean they won't exploit you if given the chance. I've also learned the importance of boundaries. Protecting your personal life, emotions, and mental health is not selfish. It's survival. And confrontation, while uncomfortable, is necessary. You can't let manipulation fester. Clarity is better than denial. Most importantly, healing is a personal journey. Anger, sadness, and frustration are normal, but reclaiming your power is the ultimate goal. Surround yourself with allies, document events if needed, and trust your instincts. They're often right. To anyone going through something similar, you are not crazy, you are not weak. The betrayal says more about them than it does about you. Focus on yourself, protect your life, and know that over time, you can rebuild your trust, your confidence, and your peace on your own terms.